Moving to Denmark and scared of those infamously high 50% plus taxes? Well, there's a special tax scheme that could save you hundreds of thousands of kronas, but most recruiters won't tell you, and in this video I'll just get into all the details so you don't leave money on the table. If you're new here, my name is Mario, and on this channel I help expats in Denmark to achieve financial independence, investing, buying a house, and overall living an incredibly rich life here. So let's start with the basics. Instead of paying normal taxes, which in Denmark can go be up to 55% plus on your income, there's a scheme called the forskerskatteordning, which is basically translates to a researcher scheme, where you pay a flat tax for this income for up to 7 years. The tax rate for this setup is 35%, which accounts to 27% income tax and 8% mandatory labor market contribution, basically like 35% in total. Denmark is not the only country that offers like these highly skilled researchers type of people special tax deals. Netherlands has a rule like this, or had in the past. Spain has something like the Bentham law. Ireland has a SARB scheme here. Countries compete for international talent by offering again tax breaks for again these highly skilled foreigners. This is very common here in Europe. But comparatively speaking, Denmark's scheme is one of the most generous. Because again, to put it into perspective, a typical senior professional in Denmark will pay normally taxes of 45 to 50% of their salary, even more sometimes. I pay myself all this amount, and it's crazy. Like half of my paycheck goes to taxes. With this special scheme, you'll only pay 35% of your taxes, which means if you earn a lot of money in difference. What Skat says is that this scheme helps save people average of 400,000 krona per year with this, if you have a high salary level, which again, it's a lot of money. No, I don't need to tell you. So who can get this expat tax deal? So there's 3 main requirements. Number 1 is that you need to have a salary that is at least 78,000 Danish krona per month after the ATP contributions. So again, this is for 2025, before it was 75,000, so it goes up each year. But again, this is money that it has to be guaranteed in your contract before you start. So again, this can be averaged over the calendar year. So if you have big bonus that is already in your contract, that this can count. So for context, this is a lot of money. It's not that a lot of people in Denmark earn this amount, but if you're a senior professional in corporate or in IT and so on, you can expect a salary like this. And if you do, you can apply for this scheme. But you don't need to be, just to make it clear, I know colleagues in MERS who are not team leads, who are not very senior in like owning big leaderships and so on, and I can still get this scheme as an individual contributor. So must make sure that you, if you're moving to Denmark, you at least check if you can apply for this. The rule number 2 is that you must be new to Denmark. In order to apply for this scheme, you can't have paid taxes in Denmark over the last 10 years, meaning you couldn't have been resident in Denmark for the last 10 years. You couldn't have owned a significant part of the Danish company. And again, like the idea here is that you bring for the state to bring new people into Denmark. Or it can also be for Danes as well, but they actually have to be not living here for more than 10 years. Which means that if you started like me, who came here to study in Denmark, I did my education here, and I got my first jobs after school here, I didn't start with this very high salary. Hence, like now, even if I would earn more than that threshold, I can't apply for this scheme. It's only when you first move to Denmark. And if you moved a year ago and your salary was 70,000 and you couldn't get into this scheme because of a bonus or whatever, bad luck. You need to live for 10 years and then maybe try again later. Number 3 is that there is a work requirement. So you again must work for a Danish company or a Danish branch of an international company. So again, like the company that moves you to Denmark needs to have a CVR number in Denmark. But again, what work specifically? It doesn't need to be a researcher type of deal, as despite the name. So again, you can do any type of work. In my company, I have seen people working in procurement as I do, or they have seen people working in IT, people working in decarbonization, you name it. They all came with this scheme. And again, in other companies, similar deal. But now let's look into the money. Let's run some numbers and see some things that will actually blow your mind. So again, I'm so jealous of the people getting this deal, but alas, I got free education, so if that counts for something here. Take a senior professional, and let's say that they earn 85,000 krona per month, which is like a bit more than 1 million krona per year. That's a high salary, but again, a typical senior professional with a leadership or in a big company, you can earn this amount of money. It's not crazy. For a normal Danish person in this type of way, you would, again, have your gross income of 85,000, and you could expect that after taxes in your pocket, maybe get 45,000, stuff like this. So again, it will depend on deductions and this and that, but basically like, let's say 45,000. That's basically like how we're standing. If you, with the same job, and the same income, so the same gross of 85,000 you enter with this expat scheme, because of the 35% versus the other tax, the take-home income will be 57,000 krona per month. So that's going to be 12,000 more in your pocket each month, which over the course of a year will make it to over 144,000. So again, a lot of numbers, but the point is that same job, same everything, same salary, you just get 12,000 more in hand per month, and that's a lot of money. I mean, who wouldn't like 12,000 more per month? You can do this for up to 7 years, but if we take 7 years, and this money, you can actually, it's almost a million krona difference. And again, hopefully you can even go through higher salaries. The higher salary, the more this makes sense. And yeah, that's good, right? So how you apply for this scheme? So here's what you need to do. First, you need to get your job sorted. So you need to have your contract signed. You need to make sure that the total package of the job hits this minimum of 78,000 krona that I mentioned. And again, you need to make sure that your employer or the to-be employer writes the total package amount clearly in the contract, because then you can make an application to the Danish state, and the company should actually help you on this, so you can go through the system. Then you file the application. There's a form called 01063, if I recall correctly. It's in English, and both you and your employer need to sign it, and you have 6 months to get into this from the moment you start. And then you need to do some supporting documents. So you need to have your work contract, as I mentioned before, proof you haven't lived in Denmark in the past, so usually tax documents or statements from your previous countries, university degree, because again, most people have one, but still they ask you for this. And again, then you can start going. You have 6 months to get this ongoing, or that's why you're here, and during those 6 months, you can still pay the normal taxes, and don't worry about it while this is being processed. So it's not that you just need to wait for this in order to start. Ideally, you have it, but else you can have this leeway until that and pay the normal taxes. SCAT will refund you the difference. Now, I want to talk about avoiding disasters. So I hear there are 3 big mistakes people make. First one is that people could miss a deadline. So again, there's 6-month window and it's strict. 15% of the applications I hear got rejected because they were too late. So again, the second you sign your contract, don't go to sleep, go and do this process. Number 2 is the salary confusion. Again, the minimum salary requirement is the guaranteed salary. So your company car and phone internet and perks or whatever don't count towards that minimum. So if in doubt, ask SCAT directly. They answer emails, you can call them on the phone. It's if it's a few thousand krona difference, they won't care, but you should care, and then you should talk with your employer, just make sure that you get over the threshold. Big companies, they will know. If it's a smaller company, you should negotiate. And then just be careful with your previous Denmark connections, because even if you have a summer job during university, can disqualify you here. If you studied in Denmark, again, like me, ouch. So again, just make sure that you do all your homework correctly. Now, this scheme runs for 7 years, no more, no less. So which means that after 7 years, you'll have to pay the full amount of Danish taxes, no matter what. So again, this clock ticks from the moment you start in this first job. Now, a lot of people stay in Denmark after this scheme ends. It's a big hit to their pockets for sure, but I read, or Dance Industry says that 65% of people in this scheme stay in Denmark after it ends. And personally, I can tell you, I know a few that actually stayed here. And then of course, they might negotiate with their work to get a compensation, or not compensation, but a higher salary in order to take this into account. But again, people do and stay in Denmark after the 7 years. But again, 7 years gives you plenty of time to build up a lot of savings, get established in Denmark if that's where you want to stay, plan to transition, because the clock ticks, and you can even buy property and make other investments. Is it worth it? Yes, 100%. Do it, no matter what. Just, if you have the opportunity, go for it. I will be jealous of you. Just one thing that is super important that some people overlook. You must keep over this threshold of income each year. So if you go lower, or the threshold goes up each year, and if you don't increase your salary in accordance to that threshold, or you get it lower than that threshold, you lose access to the scheme. So just make sure that again you're on top of this all the time, and then again that you also plan for it in your finances. One more thing you can do with this scheme is invest more. You'll still pay the same taxes on investments that us other people do. However, again, you'll have likely more disposable income to do that. And if you want to learn more about investing in Denmark and still minimize your taxes in any humanly way possible, just look in the video description. There's a link to my free Investing in Denmark course. But else, thanks for watching. Don't forget to subscribe if you want to hear more about content about life in Denmark. Thanks for watching, and wish you all a great year.